All right, so we got Kyle here, random follower from the internet. This is what we do. San Francisco on a Sunday night. We're gonna race driverless cars. We got a cruise driverless car coming to pick him up. You never been in a cruise, have you?
Nope.
All right, so it's gonna be his first driverless car ride, and what we're gonna do is he's gonna get in the cruise. I'm gonna be on the Tesla with FSD Beta. We'll put them side by side. I'll give you a signal. We'll start them at the same time, and we will race them. We're both going to this address, 100 Upper Terrace, and we'll see how both cars do. Okay, wait. I have this one thing that I should give you that might make the video better.
Okay. No, it's all good.
It has this issue where it doesn't like always go to the exact right place.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then it's gonna leave in a few minutes, so.
Okay. Yo.
Yo.
I think I started or ended the ride before I was supposed to, but it's all good. It was a hilarious moment. I think you took a completely different route.
Yeah.
But there was this dude in the middle of the intersection, and he was preventing the car from going because he was staying there and kind of just going like this, and there was a Cruise at the other end of the intersection as well.
Yeah?
So he's just preventing them all from going. It was pretty funny.
You got it on video?
Yeah, I got all of it. It's 22 minutes.
So what was your general impression?
I thought it was cool. It was just weird just seeing the steering wheel go by itself. I mean, this is very old for you. You've been doing this for a while, but yeah, it was cool. And one thing I found interesting was on the hill, there was a hill crest where I think it was going down and then it was flat and then it was going down again steeply. And when it couldn't see, it really slowed down when all the other cars were going, which I think in 10.69.3 they're fixing it because they're centering the car instead of the road.
In the release notes I read that.
Isn't it instead of the roadside it's where the car is, or vice versa? I forget which way, but yeah.
All right, so now we'll take FSD Beta back.
Cool. See
what you think in terms of how they compare.
Yeah, I thought the overall smoothness of it was decent. It was sometimes it would when it was stopped at a light, it would sometimes inch up awkwardly. Yeah. When it was red for a while. And then it really slows down at speed bumps.
Yeah.
So I can't tell in the videos I watch on YouTube whether the speed bumps that the testers recognize how big they are, but the ones that I encountered were very large speed bumps, and it really slowed down to 2 miles an hour.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. Whereas this one was didn't even stop for that. Although it did kind of go around it. Yeah. But you see how this one's stopping for speed bumps. It's way down.
So I guess
that's gonna annoy people.
Yeah. I mean, I guess in a way though, it's more about smoothness. It's interesting with the beta program for Tesla where because you're watching the car and you have to watch the car, you have a different sense of how it's driving than if you were in the backseat on your phone. Right. So if you weren't actively watching the car driving and you weren't in a rush to get somewhere, then I don't think you really care if it's slowing down in those for a speed bump. But other situations with the guy stopping the cars, obviously you should go around, but it took a while. So I think that'll be an interesting dynamic, level 2. Yeah. As Tesla's on the road to L4 versus actual L4 where you don't really care. You're not watching the car drive.
Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, overall it was cool. This feels good though.
Yeah, this one got here, I don't know how fast it got there, significantly quicker.
Yeah, probably 5 minutes. Would you say?
Maybe 8 minutes or something. I'm not sure. I'd have to check.
Yeah, this definitely.
It feels so smooth, right?
That.
That wasn't that smooth, but in terms of it's dynamicism. Yeah. Versus because that one's driverless, it has to be super cautious.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree. It was definitely I'd say
robotic.
It was definitely robotic. Around turns, it definitely didn't have any hesitation as it was making the turn, but it was definitely slower than the Tesla. The Tesla goes through turns much quicker. But I think the jerkiness definitely 10.3 or 10.69.3 is definitely, you can tell in the videos it's less hesitant and jerky as it's turning. Right. So I think that's a difference between two. And then the Cruise just doesn't accelerate fast. No. It's definitely going for smoothness, and it's it's not timid in the sense of jerkiness with the Tesla sometimes, but it just doesn't accelerate. So I guess this is more fun to ride. The other one, while watching it,
yeah. The other one's a little bit painstaking to ride, and it's so slow.
Yeah. I mean, if you didn't care about watching the car,
Right.
that it doesn't really matter. But yeah, definitely watching it, you like it when it's punchy and fast like this.
Yeah, it's very unique what Tesla has done here, and honestly, I think it's pretty amazing that we can even compare a car that's that advanced with like LiDARs and all this hardware on it to something that's just driving with computer vision. And not only can the computer vision compete, it can actually beat it in a race.
Yeah, no, it's.
And look at all these Teslas, Tesla. These are all going to be running this software. It's kind of crazy.
It's actually insane. Like the, like I listened to Andre Karpathy on Lex's podcast. He really demonstrated how, like, if you look at across the whole stack of hardware on the cars, like just removing the ultrasonic sensor, there's the cost of the sensor, there's the time on the factory line to put in all the cars, all the wiring harnesses, updating the firmware on the sensor, making sure there's no bugs in that across the whole fleet. All of that is gonna be crazy cost savings, where you have like Waymo or Cruise, where I mean they're doing great stuff, but it's like just in the long term not a scalable solution. Like when you got a few LiDARs, like yes, LiDAR in the future the cost will come down, but it's gonna take a long time for it to get, I think it's technically impossible for it to be parity with cameras because it's an active sensor, it's not passive. But you got all the LiDARs, you got all the radar, and you need all the wiring for that, and you're just not going to mass manufacture millions of cars with that whole stack.
I was talking to a journalist from the Financial Times who wrote in one, and they said the same thing. It's like, it's hard to imagine the scaling. And what Andre was really getting at with that thing about the ultrasonics, besides them really saving hundreds of millions, is like, you have Tesla, not just like the other people are designing a self-driving car, sort of like, trying to make a prototype in a sense, whereas Tesla's designing the whole thing from top to bottom, like the manufacturing, the engineering associated. Like, you probably heard all those computers in the trunk, like you could hear the fans whirring, right?
I didn't notice, but are there a bunch in the trunk? Is it? It's not in the.
They have a bunch of like NVIDIA GPUs probably or something. Whereas like, this is silent. They've developed their own chip to hardware accelerate inference.
Yeah, exactly. One thing I found, this is something I haven't seen anyone talk about lately, is I was surprised at AI Day 2 how it's their inference. So obviously their auto labeler model is huge because it runs offline. It doesn't need real time feed forward, but the main model in the car is only 1 billion parameters, which is that's large, but compared to other models out there, it's not very large. And like I don't know if you've seen the blog post for DeepMind's Gatto paper, where it basically just takes in a bunch of tokens from a bunch of different things like Atari games and like text, like chat. It was chatbot and playing Atari games, all these different things, and then they put it, I think, in a physical robot, and they said because of that the constraint of like the physical robot has to take action real time, they could only constrain the model size like a few billion parameters in real time. And then you have on hardware 3 you get billion parameters, and I mean they're still making optimizations across the stack, but imagine like hardware 4 that's going to be probably a 10x faster. They can run a much larger model, and hardware 4 is what they're going to be building Optimus on, and you're going to get really large real-time model. It's just going to be ridiculous. That new FSD computer is going to be really cool. I mean, it's an interesting sort of paradigm because you have to, when you're online, run super fast, right? Because it's life or death, and you've got all these tasks running on the car that you have to juggle. So they'll basically just build the super large model offline and then use it to just generate labels for a more efficient model, and then run that online. But of course, as the hardware improves, they can then run bigger models online too, and that'll be super exciting. They've been super quiet about that. Actually, I was at AI Day and I went up to Elon. I said, Elon, where's hardware 4? I kind of expected them to say something about it, and he said, if I told you, I'd have to kill you. That's wild. I wasn't actually expecting hardware 4 to come out because he tweeted earlier this year that it's coming out in Cybertruck mid next year. So
yeah,
I would think the fall before they'd announce it, but I guess not. But it's wild to think like hardware 3 is pretty old at this point. I mean, it was 14 nanometer process, and I wonder with hardware 4.
Oh yeah, I heard it's a 5 nanometer process from Samsung. Yeah,
was that?
I heard it's a 5 nanometer process from Samsung. Nice. But you know, Dojo's using TSMC.
Yep.
I think
TSMC 7.
TSMC 7, yeah. So I kind of wonder if they're using TSMC for Dojo, could they go over to TSMC for the hardware 4?
Yeah, because I know Samsung TSMC 7 I think beats Samsung 5 in density by a little bit.
Yeah.
But I'm really interested to see with hardware 4 if the actual architecture is more in line with like the models that they've now built, because hardware 3 they didn't have the models yet.
Yeah, I imagine
so
it's going to have
adapt the models to the
like
hardware.
Transformers, for example.
Exactly, yeah.
Have like really, they've started using Transformers a lot for like lane selection and that kind of thing. So I think they talked at AI Day how they kind of got a little creative to get the Transformers to run. They've sort of like used what they had in a lot of creative ways, but definitely there's a lot more stuff you could hardware accelerate that I'm sure the team would be happy about.
Yeah, definitely. So I bet there's some I guess they thought about Transformers and how to make them run faster and like made the architecture for that. So that would be exciting. It will be interesting to see if hardware 3 is the hardware platform upon which like they'll go whatever L4 is. But I mean, Elon speculated 3 times safer than a human on hardware 3, which I actually not sure if for regulators that's gonna be enough. Like if you could fleet wide run a randomized trial and say the amount of miles before an accident is 3 times better, I feel like they might want a 10x or something.
Well, I mean, you know, I think if you can 20% over human, that's good for supervised. You know.
Yeah.
So I think supervised definitely, you know, we'll have to see really what they do. They've continuously surprised me with what they can do with hardware 3.
Definitely.
And honestly, hardware 2.5 too. I'm surprised with what they were able to do on that hardware without even a neural network accelerator.
Right.
But, you know, it's just amazing that, you know, a lot of people say, okay, autonomy is so far away. It's so far away from commercialization. But, I mean, I don't want to jinx it, but it looks like we drove there, we drove back.
Yeah.
It's with 2 different brands of self-driving cars. Both of them made it without any issue. I mean, you said there was a minor issue with the guy doing his hand, but you know, it didn't crash.
Yeah. I mean, even with the guy, he was just like firmly in the middle of the road. It maybe took the car 30 seconds to realize like, oh, I can slowly go around him. But yeah, it's I think 2 years from now, with the pace that we're going, like it's hard to predict exactly. Like you can sleep in the backseat.
Yeah.
It's gonna.
We're clearly getting there
in 2 years. Yeah.
I mean, we're already at the point where you can now have software drive you around the city. Like, we just drove all around San Francisco, and neither of us did any driving.
Yeah.
That's
wild.
Pretty profound.
Yeah, it's nuts. Yeah, it's
you know,
gonna be ridiculous.
Like, just thinking about computer vision, when I first learned about it, it was like, you know, you never expected it to be reliable enough to do this.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it was like you could barely get it to recognize like a fairly constrained environment.
Yeah.
And now it's like it's real world.
Yeah, it's insane. Like, and
like look at this. There's a person crossing the street. This is something a person could easily miss, and the system sees. You know.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, you and I talking, like when I'm driving and like talking to someone else, it's there's small things just on the side. Nice.
All right. Well.
Sweet.
Looks like we made it.
Cool.
Thanks for doing this, man.
It was great meeting you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's super fun.